to kind of give an idea of what it is we're going to be doing. So as you guys know, by Friday, you need to have a country selected that you're going to be doing this with. Don't worry if you don't have an Excel program right this particular minute. You can catch this on YouTube later and set it up as you go along. But I just wanted to start off by showing you a completed budget so we can go through the process of setting it up together. Okie dokes?
Okay.
So we're going to take it step by step. But this is essentially what it's going to look like. I'll show you all the features as we go along. So do you guys know what I mean when I say columns and rows?
Yeah.
Fabulous. Yes, okay. So basically, I have set up a yearly budget. January through December goes off onto the side. And as we go down in column A, we're going to have a couple of different subcategories of the yearly budget. So I have transportation at the top, living expenses, shelter, and medical expenses. Now, you can set this up essentially however you want, but these are kind of the major expenses that you might be accruing as you go looking to set up your budget in the city that you're choosing. Now, I will say this, these can change. So, for instance, if you're planning on living in an urban area in your city, you might not need a car. So I have a car payments on there. That might not be an expense you have. So feel free to substitute that for something else relevant. For instance, you might decide to get like a bus pass, something using public transport. I mean, Europe is renowned for its public transportation. So that might be something a little bit more up your alley for this type of thing. But you'll notice we've got a few other features, and as you add these things together, we have the end categories of expenses, emergency fund, total expenses, salary, and savings. So essentially what all these categories mean. Expenses are all of the expenses above and added together. So essentially, how much money are you spending in a month? Okay? That makes sense. Yes, that's clear to everyone? Fantastic. Emergency funds is something that everyone hypothetically should have. You don't know what that is. Things happen in this life that you can't count on. For instance, you might be fired. You might be injured. There might be some reason why you cannot work. And if that happens and you have no savings, your entire life is at jeopardy. If you can't make payments on your house, on your water or electric or things like that, you might be in serious trouble. So, our objective here in this budget is to have 1 month's expenses saved at the end of the year. So in essence, each month we're putting a little bit into an emergency fund so that we have that money in case of disaster. Okie dokes? So what we're going to do here is whatever our expenses are, we'll take that and divide that by 12 for 12 months. Whatever that number is, we throw it into emergency and be sure to round up. So, expenses and emergency fund get added together to equal total expenses. Okay, so that's how much money we spent in a month. Our salary we're going to put right here. Savings is the difference between our salary and our total expenses. Now, normally we could say this could also be debts, because hypothetically, if our total expenses exceed salary, is over the salary we make, then that's going to be a negative number. So it's not savings, it's debt. But I'm not letting you go into debt for this project. You have to have, at a bare minimum, a savings of zero. A zero balance in savings. Hopefully, it's a positive number. Now, to show you what one of these looks like added up, let me hop out of the Edinburgh project. Hang on. Maybe? There it goes. And instead look at a Louisville. Oh, figs. Oh, Fig Newton's so delicious. Why are you so delicious? Louisville budget. This is one that we did estimating a Louisville budget here. Essentially looking at the calculations for expenses based upon a car that was found on CarMax's website. We have gas prices, car insurance, maintenance of $25, adding up to a total that we can replace the tires and have oil changes. Down below we have groceries, $404, entertainment, $10. The reason I said that, entertainment can be anything that you would do to go and entertain yourself. I'm an introvert. I like to sit at home and do really nothing. The only expense I have for entertainment is a Netflix account. That's really it. However, I gotta have me some internet. So I included internet, but also my cell phone, my personal cell phone, is an internet phone. So if I add the internet cost to my cell phone cost, I come up with $70. And then eating out, I assume I was going to eat out 5 times my $5 per longs per month, which is pretty low, to be perfectly honest, but whatever. So $509. Scrolling down, shelter, rent, utilities. Water I didn't have because in the place I was looking at, it included water. So that's what I come up with there. Renter's insurance, health, again, insurance with prescriptions, makes my expenses $1,774 per month. Now, if I divide that by 12, I come up with $148. My total expenses, thus, is $1,922 per month. My salary, and I'm giving you guys all the same amount of money, it's $30,000 a year American. Once I took out taxes, it comes to around $2,000 a month. So 2,000 subtracted from 1922, I have a savings of $78 per month. Now, when we carry these over, like thusly, if we scroll up, you'll see I have the very last column is yearly expenses. So I know for each of the categories how much money I spent. So if I scroll down, you'll see that my total expenses subcategory was $21,288. Again, right below that was my emergency fund, $1,776. You might recall that that's actually slightly higher, $1,774, than my monthly expenses, so I have $2 extra in case I was unemployed for a month. Below that's the total, $23,064 of my salary of $24,000 equals $936 into my savings. So that's how it's calculated. Now, this is the rough guesstimation rundown of what your spreadsheet is going to look like. If we go back to the Edinburgh one, I'm going to show you how I set this up so that you guys can do it too. So here's what I've done. For each of these columns, right, for each of the categories, I have set up a function so that it automatically adds these numbers for me. The function here is sum. Now what you need to do when you add these functions is, first off, if you have a function button, this is super easy. Let me show you how that works. So I'm going to come here and I'm just going to delete that cell entirely, so it's blank, right? So what I can do is I come to insert function, and you'll see that sum is the first one. So I'm summing. What am I summing? I can control or click on car payment. So you'll see it's added in B3. And I'm going to go all the way down to B6. Now, because I'm doing a spectrum, the number we put between them is a colon. If it's just 2, it's a comma. So that's important. Anyways. So the sum, B3 to B6, goes right there. You can even see it highlighted. I hit enter, and now it's a 0. So now I can plug in the numbers like I want to. So we'll say this is $5. You know, it seems reasonable for car payment. That's a joke. Never mind. It's a bad joke. Say gas is $6, $7, whatever numbers. You'll see it adds them all together. Yes? Now, the other neat thing is, I'm going to do that at the bottom of each of these categories, right? So this is, you can see through the functions, adding up everything for living expenses, shelter, medical, etc. Then down here, you'll see, oh, my expenses. It's adding together itself. That's because what I did here is I did a function where I added up the functions that I just made. So the cells B7, B14, B20, and B24 are summing as well, thus it's adding up all the total expenses. Or, to show you how I did this, we're going to delete that cell just like we did the other one. So same thing, we're going to insert function, sum, and this is a lot easier with the mouse. I'm going to get my mouse. We are going to take maintenance, or excuse me, we're going to take the sum for transportation, living expenses, shelter, and medical expenses. Enter, and there we are. Just like so. Are there any questions thus far? Okay, all makes sense? Okay, so let's move on to the next ones, because we have expenses. Emergency fund isn't a function. They just type that in. But when we get to total expenses, we need to add another sum function of cell 25 and cell 26, adding them together. So because this isn't a bunch of them, or it's not a spectrum, we're going to do comma between the two. So B25, comma B26, it's adding those two together. Salary, again, is not a function. So we come down here, nothing to it. Then we come down here to savings. All right, this is a little bit weird. But you're going to have it in reverse order. The positive number has to be the thing in front so that it doesn't come out as a negative number. So what you're going to do here is a minus function. It's the opposite of a sum. It's subtracting. Okay? So we're going to take cells B28, which is your salary, less cell B27. Okay? That's your total expenses. So again, this is a little bit harder because to my knowledge there's not an easy drop on this. But it goes like this. Equals minus, oops, not minus, minus. And we have B28, excuse me, comma, B27 in parentheses, and provided it works, there we be. Yes, everything I just said you need to do.
Wait, so it's B28.
If you've been spacing out, this is okay. I'm recording it on YouTube. So every function you'll be able to see it. Like you're like, dude, what? You can go back and watch it being done. It's all good. I trust me. I went through this budget 3 times. When I was doing the first time, I was like, why isn't this work? Oh, idiot, it's a comma. So it's really simple programming, but still it's dude, everyone does it's fine. I space out when people talk to me all the time. It's ADD. What just happened? All right. So does anyone have any questions on this?
This is on YouTube, right?
Yes, please. Okay.
Wait, I kind of have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Shoot.
Like, how? What's the title of the video? Of like.
I'm gonna title it in YouTube, "Setting Up Your Budget." Okay. Now, finding YouTube videos is pretty simple. If you go on Edmodo and go to the library, right, you will find one of the folders for this class is called YouTube. If you click on that, it'll have my YouTube channel, which is actually a presentation YouTube channel. And you should find it at the top because you guys are the last class, okay? Now, be forewarned, it might be tomorrow before this gets dropped on YouTube because it generally takes a while to compile it, and I usually do it first thing in the morning. But it will be there, I promise. Now, any other questions? Minus is probably the hardest function you have to do, which is not really that hard. Anyways. All right, so let's scroll over. Let's figure out yearly totals. How do we figure that out? Well, essentially, we're doing the same thing, only the other direction. So instead of adding a column, we're going to add a row. So in this case, what I'm doing is I am summing the column, or all columns in the row 7. So B7 through M7. So again, the easiest way I find of doing this, let's delete it so you guys know how it's done, is I'm going to come here to insert function, sum, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sum that B7 through M7, enter, and thus we have the function. Okay, now again, if you don't have the function ability, if you don't have that hot spot, you don't have that easy access button, because let me tell you right now, iPads don't. At least, if whatever I was doing this in early class, they couldn't figure out it, so I'm assuming they don't. You can still type it out and it works just fine. So, once we've done it with that row, we're going to do it with this row, which is the 14 row, the 20 row, and of course the 24 row. Then I went ahead and did it for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. That way I know what my yearly totals are for each and every category. And let me tell you, the handy fact with this budget, okay, I'm going to do it right now. Having you guys do it for your project is only part of the reason I want you to do this budget. I imagine you can figure out what the other part is. Yes, you can use this budget in real life. All you have to do is copy it, zero out the numbers, and then tailor it to your own personal expenses. This is something that many people fail to do. And it's a really basic thing you can do to keep track of your money, to set up a budget, to know exactly how much money you should be spending so you can notice trends when things go completely out of control. I can tell you from experience it's helpful. I mean, I've looked back at months and been like, oh my God, we spent a fortune eating out, because, with kids, sometimes it's easy, just like, who's going to cook dinner? I don't want to cook dinner, I want to cook dinner. It's easy peasy, right? But we start looking at oh my God, our Qdoba bill was higher than our bills in the grocery store. You probably should start changing some behaviors. Yes. Because the fact of the matter is, most people aren't like robots and operate on the exact same monetary budget every single month. There's going to be things that are variables. Christmas is always a much more expensive, or rather, December is a much more expensive month because of Christmas than, say, the middle of March. So being aware of one's spending habits means you tend to not rationalize some things that we do whenever we're in the grocery store. For instance, oh, I really need this, whatever. I'm just going to throw it in the cart. Whatever it is, whatever your personal hobbies are. I remember for a long time I was guilty of, I'm just going to throw a video game in there too. It's not a big deal, right? It's only $60. It's a lot of money when you get right down to it, especially when you think like Steam. But I digress. My point is that it's easy to lose track of where your money is going unless you're keeping track of where your money is going. So, that's the first part of what I want you to do. Let me show you the second part so you guys have a basic understanding of where to figure out this information. Because I don't know if you guys have started doing any research, but you have to figure out what it would be like to live in one of these countries. What is the cost of living, right, for these places? So let's find out. The most basic and easy way we can go about this is simply Google. And remember, I'm doing Edinburgh, so that's what I'm going to look for. Cost of living, Edinburgh. Well, look at all that. Very first thing I come up with, a breakdown of expenses. Now, here's one. Oh, let me scratch that. The first thing we're going to have to do is convert the amount of money you have. Now, Edinburgh, of course, uses euros. I'm giving you $30,000 US. So we'll take 30 grand, $30,000 to euros, and we come up with 27,595 euros and 9 parts. I'm not actually sure what the smaller denomination is of euros. Someone could probably tell me, but I don't really care at the moment. So that's how much money I have to start with. But wait, there's more. Because that's not actually the money I get, is it? What do I have to worry about?
All your expenses.
Taxes. Let's first look at income tax, yes? So, income tax. Edinburgh, not Texas. Scotland. Scotland, Edinburgh, pay income taxes. Okay. Let's see if we can find an exclamation of how much we have to pay. So individual income tax, which is what we're worried about. Taxable income, earnings from employment. Yep, that sounds about right. Okay. So how much, what's the rate we pay? So the basic rate of income for 0 to 35,000 Great British pounds. Oh, figs. You see, we convert to euros. That's no good. We got to figure out what we're doing with pounds. So let's, instead of going to euros, let's, I like Bitcoin's an option. Let's see, Great Britain pounds. Oh, it's going to be hidden on me, isn't it? Not a Gibraltar pound. Oh dear. Maybe UK? I think. No, there's Ukrainian. Maybe B for British pounds? Bhutanese. Ah, the British pound. Fabulous. Dink. So, ooh, the conversion rate's not nearly as good, is it? 21,481 pounds and 51 pence. Okay. So we would be in the lowest tax bracket, so 20%. So bust out the calculator, and don't yell at me, some math person saying that's not how you calculate it. Not correct. It's close enough. So we'll take 21,481. 21,481. 1.20. Enter is 25777 less 21,481. Enter is 4,296.20. So we'll go ahead and subtract that from 21,481.51. Enter is, after taxes, 17,185.31 divided by 12 months. 1432. So $1,432 is what I have to operate on my monthly budget. So that's how much money I get to spend. Okie dokes. Per month. So let's go ahead and remove those two. So let's look at cost of living. What does things cost? An inexpensive meal in a restaurant is 10 euros. See, here's the problem. We're going to have to convert this over. So one of the things you'll find is some of these places, and I don't know if this is one of them, but we're going to, oh, wait a second, that is pounds. I'm a dummy. The euro doesn't look like that. I was looking at it wrong. It's more like an E shape with two slits to it. Okay, so we are in pounds. Fabulous. All right, so 10 pounds for an inexpensive restaurant, 3-course meal, 45 pounds, and meal McDonald's is 5 pounds. So, man, that's kind of expensive. So we look down here, 33 pounds for a gallon of milk. Oh, sweet monkey Jesus. Things just got all kinds of expensive on me. By the way, look at the cost of cigarettes. 9 pounds. Again, when you convert that over, that's almost, I think, $18, give or take. Yeah.
For what?
They tax the hell out of it for a pack of cigarettes. Anyways, I just thought that was interesting. So one-way ticket of local transport is $1.50, and by dollar I mean £1.50. A Volkswagen Golf, or equivalent new car, is 18,147 pounds. Gasoline is $4.15. Let's go and find the conversion ratio. I'm very curious. Conversion ratio, dollars to pounds. It might not be quite that high. Oh, it's not that bad. It's not quite 2. It's 72 cents per pound. So it's actually not that bad. It's pretty close.
Wait, I have a question.
That's no such thing.
If we only have 1,000 in my house,
You might not be able This is where we get up here to public transport.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So monthly passes, for instance, for using the bus, and most likely this is not just bus, it's also the underground, things like that, is £51. So that's a lot more affordable than a multiple hundreds dollar a month car payment. So that makes a lot of sense, especially if I'm choosing an apartment in Edinburgh, which is a metropolitan area. So again, we're going to have to tailor our experiences based upon what we have. For instance, a one-bedroom apartment in the city center is £656 a month. If I add that plus the cost of other living, I might be in a bad place. So basically, this is where the hard part comes in. You got to budget stuff out, yeah? You got to figure out what you can and can't afford. Now, one thing that is a cheeky way you can get around some of these things, you see that $656 for a one bedroom? What if I instead get a 3-bedroom apartment and have 2 roommates? So we take this 1274, divide it by 3, because we're sharing everything equally. What was that? 1274.42 divided by 3, entered, is $424. That's fully $200 cheaper than living by myself, yeah? And hypothetically, I might have a nicer apartment too, because 3-bedroom apartments tend to be bigger, so there might be a bigger common area. Whereas a 1-bedroom might have something like, a kitchen, dining room, living room combination. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. But then again, I'm living by myself. I don't have to worry about anybody else. So it's something you can look at to save you money, but also you lose something in exchange. That's generally the way that economics works. So you have to pay more for luxury. So, any other questions thus far?
Oh, I have another question. How did you have a car payment?
What?
How did you have a car payment?
How did I have a car payment? What do you mean?
Like, you said we have to probably have like
Yes, that's what I said at the beginning. If that is the case, you would just erase where it says car payment and write in something like monthly bus pass.
Okay.
So you change what I have to suit your budget. As I said, your budget doesn't have to look exactly like mine. The numbers just have to add up. Yeah.
Are you gonna put yours on memory for
Like the budget completed? The whole thing's on YouTube. You can see the entire thing, including our discussion right now, because it's recording everything we say. So you can go back, and I find that's better because it walks you through each step as you go. The only thing is and what I didn't do is I showed you each example once. So like whenever I do all of column A, you have to repeat the steps for B, C, all the way through F. So you can, in essence, copy the function over and over again and just replace A for B, B for C, etc. as you go. So, that's the only thing I didn't do. As far as the rest of it, it's just plain and simple research. Now, I will say this. One thing that you might encounter is there are some places, Edinburgh is one of them, where you'll notice there's no health insurance stuff. You guys know why? Well, yes, but they have free medical care, sure. They don't pay for that. They also don't pay for the cost of going to university in several of these countries. School all the way up through higher education is free. Now, the taxes are higher. By the way, what percentage of income taxes are I paying? Did you just notice? 20%. 20%. You guys know what that same ratio is in the United States? Okay, for that same ratio, for that same income level, in the United States is 15% taxes. Okay? Now here's the thing is, that's not including the cost of medical care, right? So I was paying $100 a month just for health insurance, right? You guys know what percentage of my income that is when I add it all together? It's 3% of my income. So if I add that to my taxes, it's 18%. It's not 20. But here's the thing is, that's also not taking into consideration co-pays, actually paying the doctor, or paying for medicines. So for 2% more, you essentially get everything for free. It's just something to note. It's an interesting study, if nothing else. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything for the budget, unless you guys have any questions. So basically, what I want you guys to do is to show me in your presentation the cost of living for your country. I want you to have pictures of apartments, by the way. Whenever you're like, I'm going to live in this apartment, get a picture of it. I want to see what it looks like. Show us what it would look like. Show us some places in the city that is the city. So you're going to tell us a little bit about the city in addition to where you're living in the city and all this kind of stuff. So most likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of show you what I mean some point, give you a hypothetical thing for Edinburgh, and then you'll have an idea of what to expect. Okay? All right, that's it then. You have 10 minutes to sort of marinate. I'm going to stop the recording, so you guys will have that on YouTube.